Eels were once considered asexual, and that earned them a papal bull allowing people to eat them during Lent. They're a scaleless bottom feeder, and people are able to eat them because they're asexual animals. We'll talk about that and more fun eel facts as we sketch this little slippery dude. So let's just turn the page and get started. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is 5:30 in the morning on a, can you believe it, Friday morning. And on Friday mornings, I like to do a little thing where I pull a toy from the toy box, a random object from the Random Object Randomogrifier, if you will, and I like to draw it, and I like to talk about it. We actually do this every day at 5:30 a.m. Texas time, so you may want to set that notification bell so you don't miss any of them.
Look at his little ears.
They do look like ears, don't they? but today's random object is an eel. Now, the eel in question is the yellow eel stage of a freshwater eel's life cycle. This model, but we're going to talk about several different eels. But again, we actually do this every day at 5:30 a.m. Texas time, so you may want to set that notification bell so you don't miss any of them. They do look like ears, though. That's
all you can see now.
That's all I can see. That's all I can see now. These things. So, in the opening, I mentioned that they were considered asexual. Thousands of years. People have been catching and eating these things for thousands of years, and nobody had ever seen how they breed. Nobody had ever seen. When they found them, there were no genitalia, there were no gender markings whatsoever, no way to know, did I catch a boy fish, did I catch a girl fish, no way to know. And the reason there's no way to know is because they don't develop sexual attributes until their final stage of life, which is the silver stage of life, and they head back to the middle of the Atlantic to form a breeding pool. And nobody had any idea that this whole thing was going on. And to this day, nobody has seen eels in the wild mating. But they go that.
Joe Scott said smoked eel is good. He had it while he works working in New York State.
Smoked eel is good.
Cassandra says asexual, that's me.
And
good morning, Pamela.
Good morning, Pamela. Good morning, Cassandra. Y'all sneaking in. But so there's actually at least 5 stages. There's actually at least 5 stages to their life cycle. And like I said, nobody knew. And they start life out as a little leaf-shaped. Once they hatch, they're this little clear leaf-shaped larvae that swims around in the ocean for about 2 years, just absorbing, eating plankton and stuff like that. And they do that for about 2 years, and you can't hardly see them, So it's easy to see how they were missed. And at that stage, they start making their way back to the coasts of Europe. The water current carries them back to the coasts of Europe. And by the time they get back to the coast of Europe, they have metamorphosed. They've changed into their next stage, called a glass eel. And glass eel is tasty according to the Asians, especially the Japanese market, they consider glass eel a delicacy, and so they try to harvest as much of it as they possibly can. Because they can sell it for a whole lot. What, Mother?
I said he was attacked by eel-tailed catfish and bitten on the foot a lot, but it looked like a different fish. That's what was seen in the water.
That would be scary. What's Cassandra cooking? Carbonara. That's grilled something, isn't it? Grilled meat. I'm not sure. So from the glass eel stage, they work their way upstream, up to 2,000 miles upstream. They work their way up, and they become elvers. And then from elvers, they become yellow eels, and they live most of their lives as yellow eels as adults, again with no sexual attributes. And then they suddenly decide it's time to spawn, and they turn silver. Where's my eraser? Where is my needed eraser? There it is, way over there. They turn silver, and they start heading back to the ocean, and it'll take about 5 months to get back to the ocean. And in that amount of time, they completely give up their digestive system. They're not going to eat anymore for the rest of their lives. They're not going to eat. So they absorb all of the fat in their body. They absorb some of their skeletal system. They reabsorb their digestive system. All of that gets absorbed as a fuel source to get them back out to the middle of the ocean where they can spawn. And that is when they finally develop their sexual attributes so they can mate. But it's not until just before they get to the spawning grounds in the middle of the ocean. And so you can see. What you said?
I said I'll be back.
Oh, cheesy creamy pasta with bacon and chicken. Yeah, we're all going to Cassandra's. Cassandra will be there. You're in Australia? Give me about 12 hours to get there. Save me a plate. But you can see how it started off as a very small, very small, very transparent leaf-like thing, and then they turn into little glassy worms, and then they turn into little dark sticks, and then they turn into long yellow slimy things, and then they turn into these silver sleek things. And at every stage, not only is their body completely different, but their internals are completely different at every stage. So you can see where for thousands of years, nobody would have associated that these animals were the same animal. They would have caught them at various stages and said, yeah, I'll save you a bowl. It's just coffee, Tice. In the mornings, it's just coffee. In the afternoons, there could be rum in it, but in the mornings, it's just coffee. They wanted to know what was in my mug. I'm not saying it hasn't ever had rum in it in the mornings, but today it's just coffee. This is my favorite part of the process. This is the part of the process that turns it from a two-dimensional drawing into a dimensional drawing. And I love it. thousands of years they thought these were different things. And then in 1893, some scientist has them in a jar, has some of them in a jar, and actually witnesses the metamorphose from I think they went from glass eel to elver. I could be wrong. They may have gone from leptocephali is what they're called when they're in their pure larval state. They may have been leptocephali and transformed into glass eels. At which point that got his attention. And whatever point it was, that's what got his attention and got him uh, watching the rest of the metamorphose change. But still, to this day, nobody has seen them. Nobody has seen exactly where and their spawning techniques. Do, do, do. That should be darker. There we go. Let me dry that real quick, and then we'll add some color. You know, I think was it Pamela asked if they were air breathers or if they had gills. I believe they have gills. I believe they're bottom feeders. That's what made the whole Catholic Church thing interesting to me, was because the Catholic Church classified them as asexual, so they were okay to eat. But they're scaleless bottom feeders, which Leviticus expressly forbids. So that was one of the things that made that particularly interesting to me. Today, now, I don't think anybody pays attention to that, but back in the day, that was a pretty serious thing. But in order to continue to eat it, because as somebody alluded to earlier, I believe it was Joe, smoked eel is fantastic. And it is hard to get people to give up their traditional foods, especially what would desert people know about how tasty eel, whether or not we should be eating the tasty eels. I mean, if you think about it like a European peasant being told that they can't have it anymore, what what do desert people know about eels? So I can see that. I can see him making excuses. Oh no, that's not. That thing's asexual. That's not a real fish. But that's not a real bottom feeder. That thing's asexual. No, no, no. That one's okay to eat. I can see that. I can visualize that happening. The same way I can visualize the people in South America saying, "Oh no, this is not meat. This is a fish. This is a I know it's a capybara, but I mean it's a fish. I mean look at it, it lives in water." So the same way they can say, well, "This is the only tasty thing around." Now, we've been talking about freshwater eel. The pelican eel lives in deep water, 10,000 feet, and it's camouflage. It is super black. You know, the yellow eel is dark on top and light on bottom, like most fish, and the coloration matches the coloration of the river bottoms that it's in. Um, but the pelican eel is super black and has a bioluminescent spot on the end of its tail that it will dangle for to attract food, and when food swims by, it will snatch it up. Let me dry this real quick, so we can ink it. Oh, we're way ahead of time. So no, this isn't an electric eel. This is a yellow eel, and I don't think the electric eel is. If I remember, is the electric eel an actual eel? Are they actually the same? Are they actually the same family of fish? It seems like I remember them being different. They're very very similarly structured, but it seems like I remember them being a different type of fish. Joe's in the comments talking about how you watched a documentary about electric eels and about how they come up for air about every 20 minutes. None of my research mentioned these guys coming up for air, but it did mention that they were bottom feeders. But Wells catfish are bottom feeders. They don't come up for air, though. What was the other one? The arapaima. The arapaima jumps up out of the water and eats primates and birds. But the Wells catfish comes up to the surface and eats pigeons. So I don't know. Maybe somebody could do a quick search and find out. This is what appears to be a yellow eel. Or it looks like I may be finished in time. I could stop and do that search. I've got 10 minutes to kill. These little bullet-shaped things go quick. No, yellow eels, which are true eels, are not closely related to electric eels. That's what I thought, Joe. They're just similarly shaped. And like the pelican eel that we were talking about a minute ago, they live 10,000 feet down. They're not coming up to the surface every 20 minutes. They'd spend their whole life going like this. So
I think it's interesting that the yellow eel spawns in the ocean but matures in freshwater.
exactly the opposite of salmon and the other types of fish, right?
Yeah.
How crazy is that? Most types of fish that do that live their lives in the ocean and spawn in the freshwater. But this one spawns in the ocean. What is today? Today is the 17th. of April. It is 2026 still, right? I mean, as fast as time is flying, sometimes I wonder if it's still 2026. The glass eels are small enough that they can actually climb on the surface tension of water. So when they hit a when they hit an obstacle, they'll stay on the surface tension of water and climb over. As long as it's wet, they can do that. They're small. But once they hit a little bit further down their juvenile stage, they actually climb on the dead bodies of the eels that didn't survive the climb before. So they swim up. And there's a pile of dead eels in front of them, and they just go up that, and they just keep piling up bodies until they get to the top. But the Asian market for glass eel is quite the deal. There's it's $350 million annually in illegal trade for the glass eels, where they're catching the glass eels, which means they're catching them before they have a chance to make it to adulthood and come back and mate. They're catching the glass eels. They're taking them to Asia and selling them, and they sell. It's the price per gram is higher than cocaine and gold. So there's a huge market, a huge profitable market, and they can't seem to stop the illegal trade. But there's been up to a 95% decline since the 80s, and that market and the dams that they put up for hydroelectric power are the two main things that are causing the eel populations to dwindle. Are we taking a guess on what the next thing is? Okay, so they're in the chat. Dice says, "Let's take a guess on what's next. Probably some type of bird." My mom says it's probably going to be a dino. Dinosaur. Joe says chicken. Okay, Joe, that's still a dinosaur. So I mean, it could be. Let's just see. So hang on. Let's finish this out. Today, this is what I did today. There it is compared to the photograph. Let's see it. Let's see it compared to my perspective. Some type of
I like the eel.
some type of bird is still a dinosaur. So
I think the eel would be a good sticker.
So let's see it from my perspective. There is, from my perspective. So let's see. Let's just take all the guesswork about tomorrow out. Yeah, that's so we're all saying the same thing. Yeah, chicken, bird, dinosaur. Yeah, it's all the same thing. Let's see what it might be. Some are saying
Star Wars.
Some are saying dinosaur. Some are saying, oh, somebody says it's pig. Pamela says it's going to be a pig. It's the suspense. It's the suspense that gets you. It just makes you wonder what it could be. You know, whatever could it be? Oh my! It's a giant anteater. Giant anteaters flick their tongues up to 150 times a second. Second or minute? I don't remember. We'll find out. We'll learn more about that tomorrow. They're in the same family as three-toed sloths and armadillos. But we'll talk about that and more fun giant anteater facts tomorrow while we sketch this little buggy dude. Look at him, little nose. Can you see him, little nose? Anyway, we'll talk more about him tomorrow morning at 5:30 a.m. Texas time. So you're going to want to set your notification bell for that. My camera's flickering for some reason. But guys, thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. I look forward to it every day. Look forward to it every day when I get to art with my besties. I truly do. Run down the stairs to be with you. Tice, Rick, Pamela, Joe. Who am I missing? Cassandra. Am I missing anybody? if I'm missing you, it's only because I can't focus my eyes on the tiny little words over here on the side. But guys, thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. Be sure and tune in tomorrow. Same Artistic Biker time, same Artistic Biker channel. And then we dance. And we can talk for a minute about the robber fly over here on the side that we did last night. This is the work from the fly picture that Pamela sent us. That's the bug picture that Pamela sent us, and that's what we did last night on the 7 o'clock show. We can talk about that for just a minute. But the most important part here is that we're dancing so that the lag catches up to the stream, so that I know that I won't get cut off mid-sentence. It gives you a chance to click the clicky thingies this way if you're on the horizontal, or this way if you're on the vertical. Everybody gets a chance to say hello, goodbye, and